So we have Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 20, Text 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shiradi? Do you need the thing? Do you want to stand? Do you want to stand? Yasha Shivam Shushrava Arya Sangame Yadrichaya Chopashrinoti Te Sakrit Katangunagyo Viramid Vinapashum Shririyat Pravavre Gunasangra Echaya Yasha Shivam Shushrava Arya Sangame Yadrichaya Chopashrinoti Te Sakrit Katam Gunagyo Viramid Vinapashum Shrir Yat Pravavri Gunasangrahechaya. Ladies, Okay, thank you. Translation word by word. Yashaha, glorification. Shivam, all auspicious. Sushrava, O highly glorified Lord. Arya Sangame, in the association of advanced devotees. Yadrichaya, somehow or other. Cha, also. Upashrinoti, hears. Te, your. Sakrit, even once. Katam, how. Gunagya, one who appreciates good qualities. Viramit, can cease. Vina, unless. Pashun, an animal. Shri, the goddess of fortune. Yat, which. Pravavre, accepted. Guna, your qualities. Sangraha, to receive. Ichaya, with a desire. Translation. So here we have King Prithu, the ideal ruler, who is glorifying the Lord. This chapter is entitled Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena. My dear, highly glorified Lord, if one, in the association of pure devotees, hears even once the glories of your activities, he does not, unless he is nothing but an animal, give up the association of devotees. For no intelligent person would be so careless as to leave their association. The perfection of chanting and hearing about your glories was accepted even by the goddess of fortune, who desired to hear of your unlimited activities and transcendental glories. So we have a substantial purport with 3 paragraphs. The association of devotees, Arya Sangama, is the most important factor in the world. The word Arya refers to those who are advancing spiritually. In the history of the human race, the Aryan family is considered to be the most elevated community in the world because it adopts the Vedic civilization. The Aryan family is distributed all over the world and is known as Indo-Aryan. In prehistoric days, all the members of the Aryan family followed the Vedic principles, and therefore they became spiritually advanced. The kings, known as Rajarshis, were so perfectly educated as Kshatriyas, or protectors of the citizens, and so greatly advanced in spiritual life that there was not a bit of trouble for the citizens. The glorification of the Supreme Lord can be very much appreciated by the Aryan family. Although there is no bar for others, the members of the Aryan family very quickly catch the essence of spiritual life. How is it that we are finding it very easy to spread Krishna consciousness among the Europeans and Americans? History reports that the Americans and Europeans proved their capability when they were anxious to expand colonization. But at the present time, being contaminated by the advancement of material science, their sons and grandsons are turning into reprobates. This is due to their having lost the original spiritual culture, which is Vedic civilization. Presently, these descendants of the Aryan family are taking this Krishna consciousness very seriously. Others were associating with them and hearing the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra from the lips of pure devotees are also becoming captivated by the transcendental vibration. Transcendental vibrations are very much effective when chanted among Aryans. But even though one does not belong to the Aryan family, he will become a Vaishnava simply by hearing the mantra, because the vibration has great influence over everyone. Maharaj Prithu points out that even the gods of fortune, who is the constant companion of Lord Narayan, specifically wanted to hear about the Lord's glories. And for the association of the gopis, who are pure devotees, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, underwent severe austerities. The impersonalists may ask why one should bother chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra continually for so many years instead of stopping and trying for kaivalya, liberation, or merging into the existence of the Lord. In answer, Maharaj Prithu maintains that the attraction of this chanting is so great that one cannot give up the process unless he is an animal. This is the case even if one comes in contact with this transcendental vibration by chance. Prithu Maharaj is very emphatic in this connection. Only an animal can give up the practice of chanting Hare Krishna. Those were not animals, but actually intelligent, advanced, human, civilized men cannot give up this practice of continually chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Gyanati Mirandasya Giranjana Salakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo. Namo Vishwapataya Krishna Vistaya Budhare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanshakalpataru Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitalam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Here we have an example of an Acharya, founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, using very strong words. And he's simply repeating the words of the verse. He says, Katam gunagyo viramid vina pashun. Prithu Maharaj is saying, these glories of the Lord are so important, they are so fundamental, they are so auspicious. Even the goddess of fortune herself always absorbs in singing the glories of the Lord. So one who has the opportunity to practice but stops is an animal. So those are pashun. Pashun is an animal. How do you say animal in Punjabi? Pashun. So pretty much throughout India, pashun. Pashun. Even in Bengali, you have Narottam Das Thakur says that who doesn't know, even doesn't know Nityananda, say Pashu Boro Durachar. He's an animal, not only an animal, but also Boro Durachar. He's a big criminal, basically. So now these are strong words, and we as students of Bhakti Yoga, we need to be careful because we need to understand how the Acharyas, or here Prithu Maharaj, who is a Shaktavisha avatar, use, in which mood. No? These Acharyas, so we have Prithu Maharaj, we have Narottam Das Thakur, we have Srila Prabhupada. They're very strong. They say, look, you chant Hare Krishna, you stop, you are an animal. So these are strong words. And we should understand that they're actually pronounced with a lot of compassion, with a lot of spirit of helping. Generally, when we use such words, such insulting words, we do it with the spirit often, at least I speak for myself, more to defeat or to smash or to destroy. If I say, you are an animal, I may not do it with the spirit of helping or elevating the person. Because generally, people don't listen to somebody who insults them. So if we go around and say, you SanDiego citizens, you are all animals, may not be the most appealing approach. Although technically, depending on the definition of what you mean by animal, obviously it's not just an anatomical definition, because obviously there are different species, and human beings have certain characteristics, animals are other characteristics. Of course, in one sense, also human beings are part of the animal kingdom, right? There is the animal kingdom, there is the what are the mineral kingdom, and then the vegetable kingdom, right? So technically we are also part of the animal kingdom, but generally there is a distinction between humans and animals. And in fact, you see in some restaurants, or you say animals cannot come, but humans can come inside, right? So there is a distinction from a social point of view, who is an animal and who is not and who is a human being. So these strong words, we need to understand that they are a manifestation of great attachment for the holy name. And somebody who has that attachment, like Sri Rupa Goswami says, oh, I want to have thousands of mouths for chanting the holy name, I want to have thousands of ears for hearing the holy name. Somebody who is at that level of attachment and at that level of understanding of the value, somebody, if he sees somebody who has the option to chant but it doesn't, means he's an animal. Another word that Srila Prabhupada uses almost constantly, especially not much in the written form, but especially in the spoken form, is the word rascal. Rascal. You all understand the word rascal, no? Rascal means somebody who was very bad. Huh? And Srila Prabhupada constantly, not much in the books, but when he had the lectures, in some lectures he says so many times, these rascals, these rascals. But we also need to understand, we need to remind that yes, he was saying rascal society, rascal civilization, basically he called rascal practically everybody and everyone. But he sacrificed to come and give this knowledge. He didn't just say, oh, these rascals, and that's it. No, he said, hey, rascal. Then he got on that boat, he stayed more than a month on the boat to come to these rascals. So you can see, it's just like sometimes the mother may be very angry with the children. And may say, rascal. Or I don't know what mother says, what you say when you're very angry to your children. It's, if it can be repeated in public, in a holy place of worship. What do you say? What's the heaviest thing you ever said to your children? You're like, idiot. You idiot. What else? No, it's something that cannot be repeated even. Okay, idiot. So, dog. Kuta means dog. Okay. But you love your children, right? You love your children.
I don't say them now when they're little.
No, but the question is not if you say it now. Do you love your children? Would you give your life for your children? I will not, because they're your children. Okay, but maybe I would if I would know them. But so the point is trying to make is this: you love your children, you will give your life to your children, but sometimes, because in one sense, because you love them and you see that they are misbehaving, you feel to say, "You idiot, you dog," which is pretty heavy. So you are completely in the line of the acharyas. You are representing the acharyas. But that's the point, that we may be heavy, especially if we love somebody, generally we are heavy. If you see the same behavior in the street, somebody else, not related to you, you will not say, "You idiot." Right? You just say, you have no interest, you'll be indifferent. So, we need to be very careful as messengers, as representatives of this culture, not to be impulsive, because otherwise we can destroy relations. We can destroy people's heart. I heard Srila Prabhupada was saying, because he was very bold, very straightforward, very, we could say, heavy, but he also instructed his disciples not to be heavy. Because he said, I can say that, you cannot say that. Also because people tend to be able to take it from an old man. No, there is some social interaction. No, so an old man, venerable age, somebody say, people take it better. But if you say, you're, say, 30, and you say to another 30, he won't take it. He won't take it. Because who are you to tell me? But from an old man, an old woman, people, it's a grandfatherly, people tend to take it. So we need to be careful. I remember once I was in Houston, and Tamakrishna Maharaj at the time, he was studying in the academic world, and he was explaining how, Srila Prabhupada was calling all of these people rascals, no? But I am Srila Prabhupada's secretary. I can't tell them rascals, but I can tell that Srila Prabhupada calls them rascals. In other words, it's like, I'm the secretary, so I can repeat what my master says, but I may not say it as he says. So it's a cultural thing, okay? Something that is said is not because somebody said it, you can repeat it. It depends on your relation with the person. Okay? So we need to be a little careful, because sometimes in a youthful enthusiasm or youthful passion, a youthful restlessness or responsibility, we may just take the words and propose them, repeat them, without understanding the context and without understanding the depth of realization that there are behind these words. Now, a few words also on this concept of Aryans. Aryans, Srila Prabhupada defines Aryans. He says, the Aryan family is considered to be the most elevated community in the world because it adopts the Vedic civilization. In other words, and also he says, the word Arya refers to those who are advancing spiritually. In prehistoric days, all the members of the Aryan family followed the Vedic principles, and therefore they became spiritually advanced. In other words, this is not a racial, or again, a purely anatomical statement. It's a cultural one. It's the Arya is the one who advances in spiritual life, the ones who adopts the path of the Vedas, adopt the disciplines of the Vedas, adopts the culture of the Vedas, the worldview of the Vedas, the behaviors established in the Vedas, and therefore it's a very progressive society. Progressive not in the sense of how in English used nowadays, conservative and progressive, but progressive in the sense they progress, they grow as human beings. They develop, they emancipate themselves, they elevate themselves. So when the old culture, the old civilization, everybody say, for instance, as the value of cleanliness, okay? That means, okay, it's a very clean society. Like, for instance, in the excavations of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. You heard about Mohenjo-daro and Harappa? These are very, very ancient cities. They are dated around 3000 BC, so around 5,000 years ago. And they were part of the Vedic civilization. Right now they are in Pakistan. And they were in the area of the basin of the Saraswati River, which was the most important river in Vedic civilization. Now it's not visible anymore, it's underwater. You can see it from geological studies, but it's there. So they were in the basin, so it's calculated that so basically it's 5,000 years ago. And you see that in every house of Mohenjo-daro, there are bathrooms and sanitation arrangements. So in every house of Mohenjo-daro. In Europe, it took to have this level of sanitation, it took till the 19th centuries. So we are talking about, in Europe, it took 4,900 years to get to the point of hygienic standards, at least in terms of be able to take a bath every day, than Mohenjo-daro was 4,900 years before. So you can see it's something measurable. I mean, some of you may know in France, Versailles, you heard Versailles? It was the palace of the kings, the palace of the kings. So, I've never been there, but I saw pictures. There are magnificent gardens, and it's very gorgeous. But in the old palace, there are no bathrooms. There are no sanitary arrangements. The nobles, so-called nobles, they were answering the call of nature, basically behind the curtains, and then the servants will clean. There were no bathrooms. And why they were so famous, the French were so famous for their perfumes, because people were so dirty, so stinking, that they needed to cover themselves in perfumes, otherwise they smell like toilets, because they didn't have toilets. So when we call about Arya, we mean a culture, a refined culture in which the values of spiritual life are central to the whole civilization, in education, in politics, civic life, is centered on that. And therefore, but Srila Prabhupada also say, whoever is willing to open, says, okay, others who are associating with them, means those who are taking to the Krishna consciousness movement, are also becoming captivated by the transcendental vibration. Because after all, Krishna consciousness, it's natural for everyone, independently from the background. Ultimately, if somebody is all sincere, he will resonate, he will respond to this message. Okay, so these are some considerations on this verse. Any questions or comments or any theme related to this verse you'd like to explore? Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, it's loud. Thank you so much. I really appreciated how you brought out the idea of, or expanding on Prabhupada's ideas of people being animals, and how that should be taken, and how we should express that to others. But one question I had is that Prabhupada says that people were becoming contaminated by the advancement of material science. And recently there's been reports of people becoming less religious and more interested in science. And so often it's said that Krishna Bhakti is a spiritual science. So I was wondering if maybe you could share how that is so.
Okay. See, we are not against science, because what is science? Science is based on observation and experiment. So you observe certain things, you have certain idea, certain theory, then you make an experiment, and if the experiment is positive, you have a scientific fact. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with science in itself. The issue is that science, by nature, it's limited. In other words, science can give you knowledge about this world to some extent, and it can be very useful, and Srila Prabhupada encourages how all the scientists to use it for instance, exploring the nature of the soul, or how God creates the world. So there's nothing wrong in science, but we need to understand two things. One is that by definition, the scientific method is limited because it's based on observation and experiment, and to have an experiment, you have to have a controlled environment. So basically, science only works on something that you can control. And what we can control of the universe, of reality, it's a very limited portion. And so, yes, it can give valid knowledge, but again, if you cannot control the environment, you cannot control your object of your experiment, and the large percentage of reality we cannot control, we cannot have experiments, and therefore we cannot have scientific knowledge about them. So we need to understand the limits of science, the intrinsic limits of science. Although science is good for human beings, the human brain is meant to develop science. Like we understand electricity, then we use it, we use mics, then we use internet. There's nothing wrong in principle with using scientific knowledge. So that's the first thing to understand, that science has an intrinsic limit. When we don't understand the intrinsic limit of science, then we shift into not science but scientism. Scientism is the belief, it's almost like a religion. It's very common. The belief, the scientific process is the only real source of information, of valid information. There's nothing else. So that's what's very degrading, because we cut ourselves off from a number of valid sources of knowledge which are not based on observation and experiment. It's based on a descending information on which we don't have immediate access. So there are many nice explanations. Are you familiar with the concept of scientism? There are many nice explanations on YouTube, or if you Google scientism, there are many people who are explain that many of the things that we accept as science is actually a dogmas, never proved dogmas. And when they are taken as facts, then it's like a different religion. It's like religion, meaning it's just a faith in things which are not proven, like some people doesn't believe in the existence of God, and but nobody ever proved the non-existence of God throughout society, throughout the centuries, either philosophically, logically, or experimentally. Nobody ever proved the non-existence of God. Nobody ever proved the non-existence of the soul. It's just that there are elements, there are items, there are entities that do not necessarily interact with our observational apparatus. You can't see the soul on a microscope. You can't see God through a telescope. It's just a different, it's called adokshaja. One name of Krishna is adokshaja. It's beyond the perception. So our senses and the instruments to enhance the capacity of our senses are just not enough to access those dimensions. But those dimensions are real. It's just that through that way you can't get there. Like I was the other day, 3 days ago, I was in Caltech. In where is Caltech? In near Los Angeles, California. What's a full California? What's a full Caltech? You understand Caltech? Yeah. So I was at Caltech. They started a new club. It's called Philosophy of Yoga. And the title they gave to the first topic was Consciousness and the Mind, Insights from the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras. So they invited me to talk. And before talking, I was looking a little bit around, and I heard a TED Talk about a philosopher from here, from California. I don't remember his name, but he was quite well known. And he was explaining how they call it the problem of consciousness. I mean, obviously, conscious is not a problem. We are conscious. It's not a problem being conscious. But it's a problem because they can't fit it in their understanding of physics. They can't fit it. So he was very, very cautious because there's a very strong, what you call, establishment. It's very hard to talk about these things and openly and not be considered like, okay, you're a new age or you're religious, but not like that. So he was very careful. He said, well, there are two crazy ideas. More than once he said, two crazy ideas, not to like a disclaimer. No, these are crazy ideas, but we don't have anything better. But crazy ideas. One is the idea that consciousness is fundamental. In other words, consciousness is not a product of other elements. Gravity or protons, neurons is something different. It's a fundamental aspect of reality. And he kept saying, it's a crazy idea, but that's the best we have. Another idea is that consciousness is present in everything, is omnipervading. Technically it's called panpsychism. That everything, even matter, has some level of consciousness. And he was saying again, in a very, this kind of putting the hand forward, these are crazy ideas, but these are the best we have. The consciousness, it's a fundamental aspect of reality. It's not a product of something else. It's not a product of the brain. It's not a product of atoms or chemistry. It's a fundamental aspect of reality. And these fundamental aspects of reality are not accessible or explainable with material knowledge. So, one way of interpreting what Srila Prabhupada is saying here is that if we take material science as the only source of knowledge, then it will be degraded. Because we cut off ourselves from the whole full aspects of the world that doesn't give you access to.
Yes, thank you. I agree with everything that you're saying, but if I could just push you a little bit in a particular direction.
Okay.
Because I know we don't have that much time.
Yeah.
But since there is a decline in people who are religious, and actually there's a study that's shown that something like 66% of millennials, who are the younger generation, have non-affiliation. They don't consider themselves religious or have any kind of tradition, and people, something like 29% of people nowadays for once or twice a year, they actually go to some kind of religious event. So that if this trend continues, that means there's going to be an increase of non-religious people, right? But yet we have something that we feel that is insightful and meaningful to people, right? So out of compassion, which is one thing that you were sharing, that Prabhupada was sharing with everyone. So out of compassion, in what way do you feel that we can somehow present this to people who are going in that direction?
Okay, so I have 2 minutes. Okay, let's try to really bring it to the essence. See, first of all, those statistics also show that people who don't identify with any religious denominations, they also say that they consider themselves spiritual. In other words, what they're rejecting is not the concept that there is something higher or the spiritual life has value, but they reject their belonging to a particular religious tradition. Because it's a fact that it's not only people are moving away from religion, is also religion is becoming less and less effective. I mean, we could say common religions or mainstream religions. There are other statistics where people who go to church, and a lot of them say, I don't feel I'm learning anything about spirituality. I don't feel I'm learning about God. I tell you, I have a friend in Italy. He's responsible of ISKCON communication in Italy. He does a lot of interfaith dialogue. And recently he asked all these religious leaders, he said, why don't we do a conference on God? I mean, these are religious leaders, okay? And they were so hesitant. They said, no, God, why don't we, maybe best we stay on the ethical, on the welfare, plus we have our friends, the Buddhists, they don't have a God, they may feel a little bit out of place if we do a conference on God. So you had to push them to do a conference of God. And then this conference of God was one of the most well attended. People wanted to know what the religious leaders talk about God. But they themselves were scared, were hesitant. Some of them they didn't have much to say about God, although officially they believe in God. So it's also a fact that religion, as we experience it today, very often fails to provide the answers to those who are intellectually inclined, and those who want to advance spiritually. They don't feel so nourished. Also because the representatives of the different religions, sometimes they're not so spiritual themselves. I was hearing a Christian pastor saying how most Christian pastors are overweight. There was a Christian pastor saying how there are so many overweight pastors. I don't know the statistics. So he was saying, how can you inspire society if you can't even be healthy? Right? If you're into overeating, how can you inspire? What is because of drinking, what is smoking? So people don't have the spiritual experience. How can they interest others? So, I'm already over time. Can I use 1 more minute? How to attract them? We should try to avoid the mistakes of other religious organizations. And we should try really to give a spiritual experience, because people are open to spiritual experience. I was, again, in Caltech, and these are all scientists. You got astrophysicists, you got one lady was a bioengineer. This is all scientists, okay? But we had the talk, they were very open. Some of them, they asked for more information. And at the end, we chanted Hare Krishna. Practically everybody chanted. It's a meditation. Some of them, they already do yoga. One lady from China, I believe, she came up to me after and said, oh, you see this materialism, it's so bad, I do yoga, I do meditation. And she is a biological engineer. So these are all top scientists, or if not top scientists, researchers. They live in that, they work at, but they are spiritually inclined because they feel there's something else. So people are open. We need to give them a platform in which they can experience the spiritual life. That, in short, what I would say. It's very short.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.